Besides the motivational theories that have been shown in your textbook, there are many others out there that are useful to school leaders. I think one of the most successful in my mind for that role is McClelland. And McClelland's three needs talks about that there really is no kind of hierarchy, that there is no step by step you have to meet one need before you meet the next. It's a different way of looking at motivation, and sometimes it's more useful because it doesn't have that hierarchy to it. McClelland says that really there are three needs that need to be fulfilled, which makes it be content motivation, because we look at what are the needs. His first need is called the need for achievement, and in that one, someone who has a high need for achievement is motivated to do things that gives them the idea that I did it or I can do it. Those that have the need for power more is like, I kind of have trouble with that word power. It's really more that term influence. It's not necessarily that they're power hungry. Well, it can be. It's not really what it's all about. Though someone who has a need for power can be someone who says I did it, and it's that feeling that you have the control. But it also can be someone who is motivated by competition. I know people that if you say we're going to see how many cans we can recycle by next Friday, they'll do it. But if you say we're going to make a chart and see who recycles the most cans, they would go out and work much, much harder. I mean, that competition is a motivator, but for some people it is a trigger much, much greater than for others. And finally, the third need is affiliation, and that one is rather like the belonging that you see in Maslow. The important word there, I think, too, is cooperative. That they are motivated by the relationship. They would be someone who would be more likely to do something because they're doing it in a social setting. So if you thought of each of those as a circle, like in the Venn diagram that's over there, if someone had all three of those equal, then it would look like that. But in most cases, one of those circles is probably twice as big, and the other two are smaller. There are handouts, surveys that you can take to figure out which of the three needs fit you the best. If I were to tell you the results of that for me, you would probably not be surprised after hearing me all of these weeks that my need for achievement is pretty strong, followed closely by my need for affiliation, and my need for power is the smallest of those three circles. By understanding those that you work with, those that you love, those that you work for, when you understand which of those things are the triggers, you can, again, frame your message, create your task in such a way that's more likely to be motivating to them. Here's another way of using McClelland. Jerry Beach, Dr. Beach, did his dissertation at UNO recently on what things are motivators and disincentives for someone to become a building leader. What he noticed was there were many, many, many people going through the master's program here in Nebraska to get school leadership degrees, and they would go out and continue teaching. And when it came time for a position to be open for building leadership, they wouldn't apply. And what he's noticing also is that there's getting to be more and more need for building leadership as the current leaders retire, and that it's really important for that the best candidates are stepping forward to take in these important positions. So with that in mind, let's look and see at his underlying theory, which was McClelland. Well, actually, I think his underlying was Hirschberg, but I'm going to use McClelland with you today. So if you get a piece of scratch paper, draw some circles on it, just like I have here. Think about it for a little bit. If someone were to be going to go after principalship and they were high in power, what kinds of things would you say would be motivating to them? I'll give you an example. For example, someone who would be high in power might write in the circle, I want to become a principal because I like to make a difference in society, or I want to leave a legacy to my community, or those types of things. So think of that. What would someone have to have that said that was high in achievement? Perhaps it might be something like, I'm the first person in my family to receive this kind of a promotion, or I enjoy the prestige of being, the school leader, and being treated and referred to in that manner. Someone high in affiliation might say, I really understand the role of school leader as being a community mover and shaker, and so I want to be a part of that bigger pond of people that are going to be networking on making improvements in our community. Okay, those are some examples. I'm going to put a stop at this point, and then you can click on the next break on the table of contents to come back to that. Work through and see if you can't think of a few motivators that might motivate you based on your need for school leadership. Okay, let's flip that coin over on the other side for just a minute before we leave it. If someone is one of those classroom teachers and they're choosing not to go after school leadership, what would the need be for them to not? In other words, what would be the disincentive? Why would they say, no, I don't want to become a principal? If their issue was power and influence, they might say something like, I like having the direct influence on the children in my classroom, and I see the principal's role as kind of middle management. They have to always do what the superintendent and the school board says, and I have more actual autonomy within my own classroom. And you continue that for achievement and affiliation. And once again, I'm going to create a break at this point before the next. Finally then, Locke's goal setting theory has some big implications for motivation as well. When we're thinking about motivating people, sometimes it's how much or what kind of motivation that we're providing to ourselves or to others, whether we're talking about intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. I have 3 different ways that you can go deeper into understanding what Locke's work is all about. Down in the additional information, there is a YouTube video that actually uses a young man speaking about his application of the theory. I have one of the original articles. Probably the thing that I like the best is the website, the goal setting theory website that I'm sending you to. And so within one of those, you might want to look deeper into that. In a nutshell, what goal setting theory says is that there's kind of a set of things that you should think about when you're setting a goal. And sometimes they even put them into something called SMART goals. If you're familiar with working on SMART goals, you're in the same theory that we're talking about right now. Or you can also look up SMART, S-M-A-R-T, goals to find more about that. They're worth your time. But what goal setting theory says is that, you know what, if you put the goal too low, there's no challenge in it. If you put the goal too high, people will say, why bother? I can't do it. For example, if we say the goal is that you're going to read 10 books this semester, and you've already read 7 books, to say that you're going to read 3 more is really not too challenging. It's not anything that you're going to feel really proud of yourself for doing. But if you've already read 10 books and you say the goal for the semester is to read 10 books, then you aren't even probably going to open up another book. On the other hand, the person sitting next to you has a reading problem that causes them to read very, very slowly, or maybe actually is illiterate. And you say to them, the goal is to read 10 books this semester. They won't go running out to the library and start checking them out. They know no matter how hard they look at those pages, they can't do it. So in goal setting theory, in terms of motivation, you have to put the goal high enough that it's a challenge, so that when somebody does something, they feel like, wow, I did it, I accomplished something. You also have to make it low enough so that they can think that they can do it. Too often we are creating a one-size-fits-all goal. You can even think some of the No Child Left Behind legislation, that with No Child Left Behind, if there's a certain benchmark you have to reach, there's some children that no matter how hard they work, they are never going to make that benchmark in the time frame. And others have already surpassed that. What's the challenge for them? So I send you out again. The website's wonderful. It's probably the quickest. It's a web page that has links actually on it. The original article is written in a research type method. It outlines it in a written form, and then there also is the YouTube example as well.